and I texted him the number, and he sent me back a picture, and it matched. So that's my car. 23 years later, I find my car. And it did not look like that. This is what it looked like in 1986, 87, when I bought it. December 29th, 1986. I remember the date because it was like I just graduated high school, and that was the fall winter, and it was becoming the new year, and this car was sitting at the used car lot at Jones, and it wasn't even where Acura is now. Basically, this is where the car sat, and it had a price tag of $19.99 on it, and bless my dad, he came with me and he helped me sign the loan, and I got the car. I had it for 9 years. I had it from 1986 to 1995. Of course, I was in my 20s and my mid-20s, and about 29, of course, I had through my whole 20s, and I sold it. And it's always those stories where you hear, if I would have held on to that car, I wish I wouldn't have sold it. And then you would think about reasons of why you sell a car. And then you have some issues. You have like family, something, you move or something. And I just sold because I wanted a pickup truck. I watched it drive away from the Centerville McDonald's. The 18-year-old boy bought it, and he lives in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and he bought it, and he had the intent of holding on to this car, and he did. And I did all this back at 33,000 miles, and here it is where I wrote, please continue. And then look what happens. Title changed hands at 66,000 miles, and it just keeps going. Fast forward 24 years later, I find this car again. It's 2017. I was downstairs in my basement watching TV. It's my anniversary. My wife is over at her parents who live next door. As I'm down in the basement looking on Craigslist, why? Nova parts. Why am I looking at it? Because in the back of my mind, I always thought, I wonder where this car went. I'm scrolling through, and there is this Nova for sale, and it's the same color as this car. It has the black vinyl roof on it. It has mud flaps on it that look like the ones I installed on it 23 years ago. And then it has the National Nostalgic Nova club sticker on the rear quarter window. I'm thinking, okay, it's in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, okay? So it's not that far from Gaithersburg, Maryland. It made it back up into PA. I said, this can't be my car. So I texted the seller. So I happen to remember the VIN number, and I texted him the number, and he sent me back a picture, and it matched. So that's my car. 23 years later, I find my car. And it did not look like that. And the whole body was under a tarp, and I think that sealed moisture, and a lot of other critters moved in here. I mean, there was a black snake living in this car when I bought it back. I mean, there was mice stuff everywhere in the headline. The whole thing's been redone inside. My wife comes home, and I had to call her downstairs because I'm still watching TV, the whole thing, and I'm like, how am I going to explain that we are expecting, not a child, but a car? You know, essentially, it's another car. We don't have a space for it, and she's always known for. I've been married 20 years to this woman, and I'm like, I always talked about this car sporadically through our marriage. Oh man, this car's and I have pictures when I had it, and she's like, that's a beautiful car, and I'm like, well, and I showed her the ad from Craigslist on my iPad. I said, this is my car, and she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, and I like went through the whole thing with the VIN. And everything matches. You know, I know stickers on the side. Anybody can put a sticker on, mud flaps. But it was. I knew it was my car. I could tell, and it really did not fare well in the 23 years when I sold it to this then 18-year-old kid. It smells, and it doesn't want to start, and it's rusted all the way around the wheel wells in the back, and it is just in bad shape. But I want this car. So basically, I get the car home. I bring it to Horsepower. And the great guys I work with, they heard the whole story, and they were like really floored by me finding this car. They all evaluated. They're like, well, you know what? This car does have a good foundation. The frame is still solid. All the mounting points where the subframe mounts up to the body is still good. The floor pan is completely solid. The trunk floor is solid. Okay, Novas, they made millions of them over the years. There's a great aftermarket support with them. I could buy every panel for the car. You could almost build a Nova with all of the available sheet metal. So I needed every piece of sheet metal other than the doors were fine and the substructure was fine. So it kind of built on that, and I had a friend who built the car up for me, and I had it painted back to the original Grecian Green, and I opted not to put the vinyl roof back on and not put the custom trim back on. It's supposed to have this custom trim on the lower quarters and rockers, and it's encompassed by like a black paint. It is a really good looking trim package, but I didn't want to put all that back on because that means you have to drill holes. I didn't want to do that with this car. It's all new metal. The car's never going to see rain. It's never going to see snow, but I wanted to make sure it was clean, and I went for the clean Copo look. They call it the Copo look. I always talked about the car, and she's like, oh, here we go. But I'm like, how do you get this to pass and to make it work, soften the blow a little bit? I'm going to give the car to her. I feel they're like, oh my gosh. So I still get to keep the car, which I knew she wasn't going to say, no, you can't have it. But the thing is, I think she should have the car. It's now her car, even though it was mine first. I have my car. I have a '70 Nova. It's nasty. It's a Brutus. That's my car. Now, this is her car. So, his and hers. That's how I figured look at it, and I figured, well, I'll gift it to her. She didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. You know, we both don't have kids. We don't have any grandkids. You know, so we were like, why not? You know, and we're going to be going to a car show together. That'd be kind of cool, pulling up in a two Novas, and she's in one, I'm in the other, which hasn't happened yet. It's just a piece of metal and rubber and plastic, but you know what? It's part of me. So it's like when you have that's car, and I sit in it and I drive, I'm like, things come rushing back. My 20s come, I'm 55 now. So that's just a cool feeling, that's all.